Hi guys, welcome to this application. My name is Kutemwa and today I'll be reading the personal statement that got me into Yale's chemistry PhD program. So I recently uploaded a video where I read my statement of purpose or SOP. It's a lot to say, so I'm just saying SOP. But yes, I recently uploaded that. So if you're interested in knowing how to craft your SOP, that is another resource that I hope will be helpful on the journey. But yes, today I'm talking about the personal statement or the PS. And as always, it's important to get yourself in the mindset of the people reading this essay. I think as compared to the SOP, the PS can kind of be like less standard, I'll put it that way, because the SOP is just like, who are you as an academic? Like, mention your skills, mention your project. Like, it's very kind of like set, how it's supposed to be. The personal statement is personal, so there are many ways that you can be personal, right? And it's very easy to fall into the trap of getting too personal sometimes and losing the objective of actually submitting the essay. So one thing that one of my mentors told me has stuck with me to this day. He told me they don't care about you. So they don't care about your life story, or I'm not saying that they don't care, but the point is that they care more about what you're bringing to the table, right? So even as you are bringing out the personal details about yourself, it's important to think of like, what quality do I want to bring out of this? So it's very easy to become, woe is me, I've struggled my entire life, but like talk about also how you overcame those struggles, right? So you're trying to bring out a certain quality. In that case, it would be perseverance. So one thing that really helped me as I was crafting my personal statement or PS was I started from the end goal, right? So I thought like, what quality do I want to bring out of this essay? So if I want to bring out the fact that I struggled, but I was able to, find resources and I was even able to help others in the end. So I'm coming up with like the end goal, because obviously you can't talk about your entire life story. I was born here, like there's not enough space for that. And some of them even have like very short word limits, and I'll get into that because you're always one of them. But yes, some of them have really short word limits, so you don't even have the space to talk about, like, to start from, ever since I was 7, and like take yourself through the whole arc of, like sometimes you just don't have the room to do that. So it's important to be objective as you craft this essay. Like I said, it's very easy to fall into the trap of just being like too personal, losing the goal. So it's really important to stay focused on what do I want them to get out of reading this essay, and let that be the guide of what you include in your essay. Another important thing about the personal statement is that it's an opportunity to highlight, like I said, you can talk about your struggles. You can also highlight, like in most of the prompts, they will tell you like if you had any difficulties that maybe affected your grades or maybe affected your ability to do research, this would be the place to bring them out. So you're trying to contextualize, any struggles that you may have had, and this can also help the rest of your application because they're able to see, some people go through like very affective very affective situations, like maybe you lost a parent, or maybe financially you were struggling, stuff like that. So it's important to highlight those because they could boost the rest of your application by providing context. Then the other thing is they can also lead to you qualifying for certain scholarships. So I was blessed to be given some fellowships to some schools upon admission, and some of them have specific criteria, and some prompts also tell you that to highlight those, if you are in a minority or if you had a certain kind of struggle, especially financially, maybe that's a quality to be given that fellowship and stuff. So you want to make sure that you highlight those things. I'm not saying make your whole essay about woe is me, oh my goodness, but like just like name drop those things. And I was happy with how I put out my essay because it wasn't really like, oh my goodness, I'm so miserable, but it was like, this is my situation and this is how I was able to overcome and stuff like that. So think of those qualities and go from there. So I mentioned the word count. So Yale is one of those schools that has a very short personal statement. I think it's like 250 words. I'm looking at it right now. It's a short personal narrative, and then they have another very, very short, it's 150 characters, so just 25 words. A very, very short prompt that asks what about this program led you to apply and stuff. So I will read those short essays, but I did have a long personal statement that I was kind of like editing, tailoring to the school and stuff like that. So I will read my long one. One of the schools that allowed me to submit the long version was UC Santa Barbara, which I also got into. So I'll read that one after reading the short versions that got me into Yale. So yes, I'll start. My academic career is a product of everyone who went out of their way to create a space that welcomed me as an international Black woman. I cannot forget the challenges of starting college while transitioning into a foreign system without my family. When I joined Dr. M's research lab, I thought I was only gaining experience and training, but I also found a home. It was a space where my personal well-being and my advancement through conferences and award nominations mattered more than my work output. I also found a home in the library where I had to work to support my cost of living through my colleagues who always went out of their way to check on me and support me. When I realized that even after working so hard, my citizenship status disqualified me from many programs, I still had support. Amidst my deep searches to find internships, I had many people sending me programs that they came across, and I only had the courage to pursue them because I had experienced nurturing mentorship. I have seen now how important, sorry, I have seen in, sorry, I have seen how important support is, and now I feel privileged to be able to create spaces where others can flourish. This year, I founded the International Student Association at Xavier to build a closer community with an established peer mentorship program. I know that it is such spaces that lay a foundation for success that reaches far beyond science alone. I'm pursuing a graduate degree to advance chemistry and to make it more open and conducive for people like me. Yale will give me a platform in my community for outreach and mentorship through initiatives like the STEM Mentors at Yale. I'm confident that my experiences and training will equip me to impact energy conversion and chemistry education. Okay, so many things that I want to highlight here, but like I said, I was name dropping the fact that I was an international student, that I'm Black, that I'm female, of course. And I mentioned that I had financial struggles, but it wasn't from a, oh my goodness, woe is me. But like, I'm just like dropping, this is what happened to me. So first paragraph is like, oh yes, like, I struggled, but I found a space that welcomed me. Second paragraph is, this is now how I'm going, what I did to help others who are also in the position that I was in. And then this is what I'm going to do when I come to your school, right? So it still has a very clear objective, where am I coming from? What have I done? So I'm showing, and I'm still connecting it to the chemistry, in everything that I was, explaining. So yes. And then there's that short one that I mentioned. It's so short. Oh my goodness. I literally just wrote a sentence to reach that 150 characters. So this is the what about this program has led you to apply. My response was, the collaborative chemistry department created by joint efforts like the Energy Sciences Institute is perfect for me to dive into energy conversion. So something very specific about the department is what I chose to go with. And even in your personal statement, it's important to talk about some specific qualities of the school that are interesting. So your SOP is where it's important to name drop professors. Your personal statement is more like, personally, how do you fit with the school from your from a personal standpoint. So now I'm going to read the long version, which I really ended up loving my personal statement. It took so many revisions from different people, which is the advice I give always, like get feedback, because it's so easy to be biased against your own, work, especially when you have to read it so many times. So get people to read it. I mentioned last time that you need people who are above you. So maybe even the people who are recommending you, who are like professors, if you have those people in your life, ask them to review it. Ask people who are at your level, so other people who are applying as well, and people who've gone through the process before, like there's someone who's a grad student right now, it will be really important to get that feedback. But as I always say, do not lose your voice. Of course, you're getting feedback, but take it with a grain of salt, because in the end, it's your essay. You decide what the final product is. And I'm saying that because I remember now that there are certain parts of this essay that were heavily criticized, but I chose to keep them because I felt like they really did highlight me as a person, and also they were criticized. Okay, so the title of this essay is From Chalkboards to Cutting Edge Chemistry. And I realized I should say when a paragraph is done. Okay, so first paragraph. At the age of 10, my favorite pastime was running a school that consisted of my 6-year-old sister and a makeshift chalkboard. During school breaks, classes started after breakfast and lasted longer when colored chalk was available due to my excitement writing on the board. Through my academic journey, I realized that my love for teaching came from a passion for learning. In high school, a typical afternoon found me in my favorite library spot, laid out with open textbooks and plain paper. My class notes tended not to go beyond trite definitions and to know lists, which was sufficient in the Zambian education system, where rote memorization is king. Searching for the gaps led me to create leaflet roadmaps to my learning goals, and retention I found along the way. This revealed a hunger for the unspoken wise and real-world application, and nothing satisfied my intellectual self like chemistry. Second paragraph. Based on my Zambian upbringing, loving science assigned me a medical career, especially because of the bare resources to invest in other fields. Outside those barriers, I could pursue my true passion, pure chemistry. At Xavier University of Louisiana, a historically black and primarily undergraduate institution, I got to be part of an energy storage lab. Dr. M, my junior chemistry professor, became my academic advisor and research mentor. Several conversations with him and other professors about their path showed me that academia perfectly combined my love for teaching with my desire to apply chemistry through research, and I was sold. Third paragraph. Joining the lab without any research exposure was out of my comfort zone. Even more, within my first week, I had to start giving a series of presentations, from the introduction of lithium-ion batteries to the solid-state electrolytes studied in the M Lab. Thankfully, my curiosity guided me through the story of batteries, and presenting it became exciting. I was like a child with hordes of colored chalk. However, it was conducting electrolyte synthesis and testing that unlocked the power of the concepts into what I see as the highest level of learning. I enjoyed the guided exploration that refined my independent research and the analysis of our findings. By the time I presented this series again to our new lab members about a year later, it came from a place of deep understanding and appreciation for the impact of our work in moving further from flammable liquid electrolytes. Next paragraph. I spent the summer of my sophomore year at the University of Notre Dame taking this work further by studying the material properties of our electrolyte. Working in an advanced research lab and collaborating with graduate students introduced me to a higher level of research. When the first electrolyte syntheses were unsuccessful despite efforts to replicate variables from experiments at Xavier, Dr. J and my grad student, sat down with me to chart modifications that led to successful synthesis. That experience challenged me to take ownership of my project and showed me that I could not make relevant contributions without a solid understanding of what had already been established. I'll take a break and emphasize that now I'm talking about the research that I did, but I'm talking about me. How did I feel? How did I grow from that experience? Okay, next paragraph. In my junior year, I discovered the particular area of energy storage and conversion I wanted to contribute to long term. A research seminar led by Dr. V introduced me to electrocatalytic conversion of abundant molecules to feedstocks. Electrocatalysts can reduce the energy consumption of integral chemical reactions, and using them to produce fuels from emission waste is genius. This past summer, I worked in the V Lab at the University of California, Davis. Once again, I was joining a lab without any specialized experience, but this time I was armed with basic knowledge from prior studies. Through training, I worked independently on synthesizing and testing metal chalcogenates for carbon dioxide reduction. Being heavily motivated by the impact of the work, I found myself asking many questions and undertaking multiple literature searches. The lab culture being so uniquely collaborative allowed me to see that my project was a small part of a mosaic of efforts. Next paragraph. Now, as a senior, I can envision a future for myself that 10-year-old me could not even fathom. My academic career is a product of everyone who went out of their way to create a space that welcomed me as an international black woman. This was in reality. I cannot forget the challenges of starting college while transitioning into a foreign culture and system without my family. When I joined Dr. M's research lab, I thought I was only gaining research and training, but I also found a home. It was a space where my personal well-being and my advancement through conferences and award nominations mattered more than my work output. I also found a home in the library, where I had to work to support my cost of living, through my colleagues who always went out of their way to check on me and support me. When I realized that even after working so hard, my citizenship status disqualified me from many programs, I still had support. Amidst the deep searches to find internships, I had many people sending me programs that they came across, and I only had the courage to pursue them because I had experienced nurturing mentorship. I have seen how important support is, and now I feel privileged to be able to create spaces where others can flourish. This year, I founded the International Student Association at Xavier to build a closer community with an established peer mentorship program. I know that it is such spaces that lay a foundation for success that reaches far beyond science alone. Then last paragraph, I'm pursuing a graduate degree to advance chemistry and to make it more open and conducive for people like me. UC Santa Barbara will give me a platform in my community for outreach and mentorship through initiatives like the 5th grade chemistry outreach program. I am confident that my experiences and training will equip me to impact energy conversion and chemistry in education. Okay, so I know I already read that, but I read through it again to show that like that was the part that I was able to take out. So this is essentially the personal part of the essay, and this was the most important part, at least in my eyes. But since I had all the space, I was able to talk about my voice is going. I was able to talk about the other aspects. Like I said, aside from like where this passion came from when I was young, and I talked about exploring those passions at Xavier, how that developed through the internships and stuff. And I already mentioned this when I was reading my SOP, but I was going into a different field. So if you notice, there was a shift. So I talked about batteries. Then I shifted to a different field. So it was really important to emphasize, like, yes, I learned these things and I grew because of batteries, but I was able to discover this passion. This is what made me look into it, and this is what I want to do. So do not diminish any parts of your experience. I know sometimes people struggle with like, oh my goodness, my story is so different and so this and so that. But if you think of it, like this essay had so many different parts as well. I talked about me being young. I talked about, there's like different parts, these like three different internships, and like even like my experience, joining that lab and how it led to my goals. The most important thing is like be intentional about creating strings, as you go. Like when I was going through the essay, I was kind of like referring back to things that I had already said before. Like I talked in paragraph 2, I mentioned the chalkboards again, which were in paragraph 1. And like in the third to last paragraph, I talked about 10-year-old me, that was in part. So like there are little things that you can do to make sure that your essay is flowing. And yeah, it's completely up to you to decide how that's going to look like. I wish you all the very best. You have this. Be sure to draft as early as possible, get feedback, be happy with your final product. Sometimes you also need to just take a break, like, draft your essay, take a break, put it aside, do other stuff, and then you come back with kind of like a fresh perspective as well. And be sure not to send in any errors. That might lead to the rejection of your essay, like of your application overall, because there are so many people who apply. But I believe in you. I wish you all the best. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to talk about anything else, or if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them. All right, thanks for watching.